Rishi.
And I'm Renzo.
And we love giant monsters.
If you're like me, and I know I am, you like giant monster movies too.
The concept of Monster Island doesn't show up until like after those first 4 movies.
I think I'm trying to think.
Honestly, Monster Island, kind of like the idea of it may have come from like old Japanese. Like that may have. Would that have an element in myth? It might have. I mean, like having like a haunted island with creatures.
I mean, you could make a case that there is probably like various different like legends about, because Japan is like full of tons of small little islands
and people would be scared.
I can't really think of one specific myth that was like the Monster Island.
But I think the whole idea of Monster Island really started coming out when they really started pushing these movies as kids' movies.
Yeah.
And they want to be like, oh, well, they're all buddies. They hang out when they're not fighting. This is what they do. And then, when they fight, you have a movie.
Yeah. And they all gang up and, like, come on, guys. Deidre's wrecking shit again.
Deidre, what an asshole.
A movie where they gave you like some idea of what was on Monster Island. Has there ever been a human population there? How did it get started?
I mean, they don't really go too deeply into Monster
They
Island.
go
It's
into
just
Infant Island a little bit, because that was Mothra's home.
But that's not Monster Island. Infant Island is where there's like a village and they have all that other crap happening. But
they have that weird skeleton
But
tunnel.
Monster Island's pretty much just real estate for these assholes.
There were like a series of books aimed at kids in the 1960s that gave like detailed descriptions of all the monsters, and not just Godzilla monsters, but also Gamera and Ultraman monsters, because this was a book not put out by Toho or Daiei or any of these official people. It was done by someone who was a fan of these monster movies, and it gives you like a cutout of King Ghidorah. Oh, he has electric sacs in his chest that generate the laser beams.
Yeah, and it's like they do cutaways for like Gamera.
They do like cutaways showing like Gamera shoots fire because he has coal sacks in his body. So he's a liver, heart, coal.
That feels actually very very similar to like stuff you hear about like old timey like folklore monsters from Japan. Like they'd be like welder.
Kappa, the Kappa are strong because they have a cup of water in their head.
Yeah.
And that retains their strength. If they ever lose that water, if they lose their strength. Which is kind of like, it's a power limit. Kind of like with Ultraman. He can only stay Ultraman for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
They give their monsters like these weird limitations, except for Godzilla, who has no limits.
Well, yeah, he does. In
Barely.
Godzilla 1984... He's so fascinated by the birds.
He loves birds.
He loves birds. It's like they're able to use the birds to hypnotize him to like go do
fall into a volcano.
Yeah, fall. It's like that was his one weakness.
And then he came out of the volcano in 1990 looking like bigger and stronger.
I know.
It's like, gee, thanks for the spa trip, guys. I feel great.
It's like he got all the drugs washed out of him.
I know, he got all the toxins out of him.
Yeah,
He's like cleansed. Yeah, Monster Island is just home for these creatures. I mean, King Ghidorah, it varies like movie to movie, because like in the Astro Monsters, King Ghidorah lives in space and he protects...
Well, he's always been this jerk that comes from space.
Except for in the Mothra movies, there's prehistoric...
You mean the Mothra trilogy from the 90s?
The 90s Mothra trilogy.
In that case, he was a monster that did come from space, but then he crash landed on Earth. Even in prehistory, and then he kind of landed there and kind of incubated,
chilled out.
Yeah, well, because he was responsible for the death of the dinosaurs.
Really?
He's that big of a dick.
He's a jerk.
Wow, he wiped out the dinosaurs?
Yeah, he wiped out the dinosaurs.
What's a T-Rex going to do against a laser?
against like a giant. He sounds like a giant like space turkey. I can't even do the noise. It's so weird.
I think that's pretty accurate.